Okay, Chevra, we are learning Pituchei Chotam from Rabi Yakov. It is Parshas Balak, and this week we are going deep, head first, into the Sefer Alikutim from Reb Chaim Vital. It was actually written by Reb Shmuel, his son, and he copied it over from what he heard from Reb Chaim, who heard it from the Arizal. I'm telling you, this is like, whoo, you got to hold on. You got to fasten your seatbelt and get ready because we're going in. So the Torah begins, Vayar Balak ben Tzipor. Balak, the son of Tzipor, saw, Es kol asher asa Yisrael la'amari, all that Yisrael did to Amari. Vayagar Mayav v'pnei ha'am ma'oid. Mayav was very frightened because of the people. Ki ravu, because they were many. Vayakatz Mayav mipnei b'nei Yisrael, and Mayav was disgusted because of the b'nei Yisrael. So Rabi Yakov points out, it's interesting, we're calling here the b'nei Yisrael first, Yisrael, then the and back to Yisrael, and now in the third pasuk of the parsha, Vayemer Mayav al ziknei Midian. Mayav says to the elders of Midian, Ata, now, yelachachu hakahol es kol seviv oseinu. This kahal, now we're being called, the congregation, is going to lick up all of our surroundings, kilchei chashar eis yerek hasoda, the same way the ox licks up the vegetation of the field. Okay. Uvalak ben Tzipor melech l'mayav be'isahim. Balak was the king of Mayav at that time. And the story continues that they send messengers to Bilam and to come and curse the people. Okay. Let's see what this is the Hakdama that we need to learn from the Arizal. Again, it's from the Sefer Halikutim. You can find it in Shar HaPesukim. If you have wiki text, that's a website, Wikitext in Hebrew. That's where this is coming from. That's where I found it. Shar HaPesukim, Siman Chav Beis, and I took out little snippets that Rabi Yakov quotes, or not, it doesn't literally quote them, but he quotes them, and this is what we got. So I'm going to read. Well, let's read a little bit, and then we'll explain what each of these lines. I can't say I'm going to explain, but we'll at least elucidate it and show it in our slides what this means. Balak and Bilam, hayum uravim mishtayim rois. So they were made up of two evils. Min harashal kain umin harashal hevel. So Balak and Bilam both, they weren't just evil; they were a mixture of ra, and they were mushrash. Their sheirish, their root came from the evil part of Kain and the evil part of Hevel. They each one has in their name the two letters Beis Lamed. Gam Yadat. A second introduction is that there's a concept of the five gvuros, which are called mansepach, the letters mem, nun, tzadi, pei, chaf, which are the letters that come at the end of a word. I grew up calling them enda letters, the enda mem, enda nun. Now they're called the mem sofit, or the like. And the Arizal quotes from earlier sources that each one of these letters are represented by a different organs of the body. There's the chutmi, mispashtan, he says, bechutmi is the nose, bepuma, the mouth, bedroi, the arms, beyadin, the hands, ube'etzbayin are the fingers. And then v'ine Kain and Hevel, where each had a makeup of these as well. And he explains that the Chotam and the Puma had to do with Hevel, and the other three had to do with Kain, and we'll see that. Okay. The last idea, another idea I should say that he mentions, is that Balak wanted that Bilam should curse the people with some combination of the shem of Ekyav, Aleph, Hey, Yud, Hey. and Bilam wanted to curse the people with something to do with the Shem Havaya, both coming from the Olam of Bria. So there's a world of Atzilos, Bria, Yitzira, and Asiya, and they were trying to tap in to these Shemus that come from the world of Bria. Okay, let's go through this a little bit. Okay, so the first thing that the Arizal mentions, Rabi Yakov mentions, is that Hevel has a good part and a bad part. He actually writes that Moshe, it takes the hay of Hevel, and then he was misakin the hay of Hevel. The Beis and Lamed were not mitukan, they were not fixed up, and therefore they still remain Ra, and therefore Balak and Bilam each have the Beis and Lamed from Hevel's name. And that's where their sheirish of Ra comes from the Beis and Lamed, which were not mitukan, which were not fixed, and Balak and Bilam are trying to tap, are made up of that energy. The Mansepach are the end of letters, and that's where dinim, gvurais, judgment, harshness comes from those letters. And each one corresponds to a limb. The mem is the chotam, that's the nose. The pei is the peh, is the mouth. Nun is the zroya. It's sort of shaped a nun is like an arm. The kaf, like a hand. That's got like the kaf, it means a palm. So that's the yad, and the tzaddik are the etzbayis, are the fingers. Okay. Now you'll notice the chotem and the peh both produce hevel. They both produce a hot air. That's hevel. And therefore the mem and the pei have to do with hevel, have to do with hevel himself. They produce hevel. And Bilam had that koyach. Bilam, we're told that his koyach was bepeh, things that are mitzi hevel. So the gvurais, these, and therefore Bilam was more, even though Bilam was more hevel, was more associated with hevel. The nun, chaf, and daled have to do with maisa, have to do with action, not hevel, and that has to do with kayin. The chaf, nun, tzaddik of these mansepach letters, of these letters, equal 160, which is actually the gematria of kayin. Okay, Balak was more kayindik, even though they were both made up of both, but Bilam was more heveldik, if we can say, and Balak was more kayindik. Now, Balak wanted Bilam to use the shem Ekya to curse, and that's why he tells Balak, "L'cha na aroli, please go and curse for me." You'll notice the seifei tevis. That means the last letters in each word here. Hey, aleph, hey, yud is are the letters of Ekya, of the Shem Hashem of Ekya. Aleph, hey, yud, hey, in the wrong order. Bilam responds to the messengers that were sent to him. Linu fai halayla v'hashevaisi are the Isiyas, the opposite of the Shem Havaya is Vav Hey Hey Yud. Okay, so they wanted to curse the people, but they wanted to come from different points. Okay. Another thing to know or to keep in mind that we've discussed previously that the Shem Havaya have 4 miluyim. There are 4 ways to spell. Milah means when you spell out each letter of a word. That's the milah, the filling. And the Shem Havaya, there are 4 different ways to spell it. You could spell it with yuds. You could fill it in with yud and alephes. Then you could just do alephes and just hays. Okay, and they each have different gematrias. The Shem Havaya b'milu yud is 72. Then there's with Yud and Alpha is 63, with just Alpha is 45, and just Hayes is 50. Just Hayes is 52. Ab, Sag, Ma, and Ben. Now, if you just take the Milui without the Shem Havaya, so you would basically be subtracting 26, the Yud K Vav K, from each one. And the Milui of each one is here 46, 37, 19, and 26. Now, if you add all the Milui, just the Milui together, and you add 4 for each one of them, you'll end up having 132, which is the gematria of Balak. It means Balak understood a source of the Milui of the Shem Havayas, of all 4 of the Shem Havayas. Balak was sourced in that. That's his Shem. Balak is 132. That's the Shem Havaya, the Milui of the Shem Havaya. And that's why he understood that we'll get to that in a second. Now, Bilam, his koyach comes from the Shem Shakai. Hashem has a name, Shakai. There's another form of gematria called Adbash. That means the first and last letter of the Aleph Beis are interchangeable. The second and second to last, that's the Aleph switches with the Tav, the Beis with the Shin. If you were to do the Adbash on Shakai, you would get the letters Beis, Kuf, Mem, which are the gematria 142, the same as Bilam. Bilam was sourced in the Shem of Shakai. And that's why he says, Nu'um Shemeya Imrei Kel, these are the words of Bilam. Asher Machazeh Shakai Yachazeh Neifel Ugluyinoim. Word of him who hears God's speech, this is Bilam talking, who beholds visions from the Almighty, Almighty being the Shakai. He beholds visions. So prostrate, Neifel, fall down, but with eyes unveiled. So, but what's Machazeh Shakai? Because he doesn't get the full Shem of Shakai, he is only the Adbash of Shakai. He's like a vision of the Shem of Shakai, not the whole Shem Shakai. So both Bilam and Balak don't have the fullness of anything. He has something from Shakai, and Balak has something of the Muli of the Shem Havayas. That's where they're at. Okay. With these introductions, let's at least learn a little bit of the Parsha. I have to send you have to look at the Sefer Pituchei Chotam. I hope you have one by now. There are many versions. You got a beautiful art scroll version. I'm only going to give you the beginning of the Parsha. You're going to have to read the rest yourself, because really the whole Parsha goes with these Hagdams, with these introductions that are here. Okay, so Vayar Balak ben Sipar, the beginning of the Parsha, is Kol Asher Asi Yisrael Amori. Balak looks at the Jews and he sees Yisrael. Yisrael is Mushush, we'll see in the Shem in Hevel. Yisrael is something, and what does that mean? He saw what Yisrael did, Lo Amoiri, not to the Amoirim, on the deeper level, La, because of Amoiri, because of their words. He saw that Yisrael is Mushrush, is sourced in Hevel, and therefore they are able to use their words. Their koyach doesn't come from the sword. Their koyach comes from their Torah, from their tefillah, from their words. That's what he sees. Vayagar Moav v'pnei ha'am. Now, Moav was fearful because of the nation. Very fearful. Kiravu. Ha'am, as opposed to Yisrael, is sourced in Kain. Ha'am, the nation, that's the Hamoinam, the regular folk. They're sourced in Kain. So what are you so scared? If you're Balak yourself, you have the 3 letters of the Man Sapach. You're also sourced in Kain. You have that koyach. But he understood that even though I am sourced in that, and he also understood that he has the milui of the Shem Havaya. He has the milui of the Shem Havaya, but he doesn't have the whole Shem Havaya. The milui of the Shem Havaya was 132. That was Balak. But the Havaya b'milui, that means Yud Kei Vav Kei plus the milui gives you 232. This is amazing. Kirav. Why was he scared? Why was he scared? Kirav. Because I only am 132. I'm only the Milia, the Shem Havaya. The people themselves, Kirav, they have the whole Shem Havaya. They're Rav, they're much more than me. And therefore he was Ma'oid, because they have the full Shem Havaya. By Yakatz Mayav. Now there's more Mayavas discussed in Bnei Yisrael. Why are they so, so because, the I could fight. Maybe we could fight. Epis, I can go. But Yisrael, when they're mushrosh in Hevel, the koyach of Amira, that I have no shot against. I have no koyach to fight them. And being that I have no koyach to fight them, who do I have to call? I have to call by Bilam. He says, they're gonna wipe us out, and therefore I have to call Bilam, who has a koyach bepeh. But look what he's. Why now do we switch the call? Again, so we spoke about the Am, which was Cain, and we spoke about Yisrael, which is Hevel. You put the two together, that's the call that he says, I have no shot against. I have no shot against them. That's the call, that's Cain and Hevel together, the congregation. I mean, the two of them together. What is this mashal of the Shar? Pituchei Chotam is Yerek Asada. So he says that, if when you have to eat, you'd have to uproot something. You'd have to uproot the grass as well. That would be, that would symbolize that they're going to do this with difficulty. But he was so scared. He says they're going to lick us up. There's going to be zero difficulty at all because I don't have any protective. His concept was that I'm the Mili of the Shem Havaya. I don't have the Shem Havaya. I don't have any wall to protect me, so they can just come and lick us up. I send you to the rest of the Sefer to see the rest of the Parsha, how the rest plays out, but I would like to focus on one Inyan. We have the koyach of Hevel, of Torah, and Tefillah. And that frightened Balak to no end. So let's spend this Shabbos strengthening our Torah and our Tefillah, the koyach that we have with Hevel, and with that we should have amazing Gavaldik Shabbos.